Hey everybody, Sleepy Reader here. Gonna do some comic book thoughts. We'll see how long it takes. In theory, I want to bang them out quickly. I did want to show you yesterday when I went to my regular comic book shop, I found some more epics. These cost me a little more. Oops. Kind of shiny. I get 25% off the sticker price, so I think they cost me about $4.50 as opposed to $3, the other ones I bought. But I thought I'll grab these while I have the chance. I don't know if I'll find the rest of them for $3. So I got 4 more. That's a really cool cover. I can't tell who these covers are by real quickly. That might be John Bolton again. They liked John Bolton a lot at Epic, I think. I don't see a signature on that one either. That's a really cool one with a mermaid. I guess being attacked by an octopus or caressed by an octopus. I don't know. Anyway, I'm really enjoying collecting these epics. And also in that last video, I mentioned Shaolin Cowboy and how much I like that. And I just had one other thought when I was chatting with somebody that I'm coming to view these Jeff Darrow comics, and particularly the Shaolin Cowboy, as kind of less like a typical storytelling in comics and more like a performance piece or performance art or conceptual art almost. He just has so totally his own approach to things. And that was also obvious to me in a short piece he did a while back in Dark Horse Comics, or Dark Horse Presents, which was this day at the beach with Rusty and Big Boy, the giant robot. Anyway, I love that double page spread there. But so anyway, if you're going to try out Shaolin Cowboy, I highly recommend it, but I also just want to point out it's something different than a regular comic book. What it is exactly may depend on your own interpretation of it, but I'm sort of thinking of it as the conceptual art, the performance, this sort of odd, holistic kind of thing. It's more about the effect of it than about the story. But talking of story, Killer Be Killed continues to really grab me. It hasn't. The last issue, and I don't know if I talked about it, was more about his ex-girlfriend, and that was interesting. But I think when it's inside this character's head, it has more momentum. So I enjoy the narration from the point of view of this character, and I don't know. It's just, in a way, he's not very sympathetic, but it's still just kind of compelling. This diary of this, what is really a serial killer, but this odd serial killer who's also being kind of a superhero, and it is like a take on superhero, and it still feels like 1970s New York to me, even though I guess it's supposed to be the modern day. There's computers and everything like that. The art seemed a little hastier to me in places, but I don't know, maybe that was almost with the mood of the piece, a little rougher. But then there was this incredible painting. Actually, this painting made me think a bit of Crypt of Castle Hill. Pardon the nipples. But anyway, it does bother me. He always refers to his dad as doing porn, but what his dad really did is spicy pulps. You might call it erotica or something like that. I wouldn't call that porn. But anyway, I guess it's all in the eye of the beholder. The colors are marvelous. I'm really liking it. Anyway, just still really strong. My biggest complaint about Killer Be Killed is I'm kind of tired of all these covers just showing him in his red hood. Oh, and another point I wanted to make about it is in this issue, now that the police know there's a vigilante out there, they've pretty much put in a police state where they're guarding everywhere and checking people's bags coming out of the subway and everything. And is that possible? Can the police do that in New York City? Has that ever happened before when there's been a serial killer on the loose? It's kind of like anti-terrorism activities. I don't know if that went on in New York after 9/11. But anyway, that's kind of just a little odd note to me. I read the first issue of Aliens Dead Orbit by James Stokoe, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Stokoe. And I just really enjoy Stokoe's art. I think most people probably discovered him with Orc Stain, and since then it seems like he's done mostly work for hire, licensed things, but always with his own distinct style. Like he's done some Godzilla, but it's just a pleasure to read his art. He's kind of a perfect fit for the grungy Aliens world. The story so far, it's written by Stokoe, is pretty standard Aliens kind of story, but even if it stays just a standard Alien story, it'll be fun just to see Stokoe do his thing with it. He does the art and the lettering and the colors and the writing, so it's truly a one-man show. But I hope there's some kind of little twist involved. I liked his Godzilla story, which kind of focused on the human angle and the historical angle of Godzilla and the monsters rampaging across Earth. So maybe he'll turn out to have some interesting angle on aliens. But I'm going to have to put that on my pull list. And I read Old Guard number 3 by Rucka and Fernandez and Miwa and Wynn. I think, is it Daniela Miwa? I think she deserves a big shout out. The colorist. I really think the colors are a lot of what keeps the fun in this comic, which is, as I've said before, kind of a pulpy kind of comic. If you stop and think about it too much, it just seems silly, but it wants you to take it seriously in this pulpy way. This issue featured a huge amount of violence and fighting, and was a fun, fast read. I like the layouts a lot by Fernandez. I think the art itself seems kind of hastily done, but he's been putting this out monthly. I like the way the lettering works in the layouts too. That's pretty cool. He's putting this out monthly, and I think there's like 26 or 28 pages of art here. I haven't done my usual obsessive counting. It is kind of, there's a funny contradiction because it's supposed to be all hard-boiled and bitter and stuff, but then there's this cheesy romance stuff, like the gay couple have been in love and think each other are perfect for 1,000 years, and that's certainly not hard-boiled and bitter. That's extremely over-the-top romantic, and they have their over-the-top romantic kiss. It's almost become a cliche of, in certain circles, I guess, of idolizing gay relationships. They're just as bad and just as good as any other relationships, right? My gay friends have certainly had their ups and downs as much as I have. But anyway, that just made me kind of chuckle. I don't know how much Rucka is like in control of his material or just in love with his material, and he does it the way that he thinks is best without analyzing it. I don't know what's going on there. Okay, speaking of Immortals, the Immortal Brothers, The Tale of the Green Knight. So they rewrite the tale of the Green Knight from Arthurian legend with there's 3 immortal brothers there's Armstrong, there's Aran, who is the eternal warrior who is continually throughout the millennia protecting the reincarnation of the Geomancer, And there is another brother who I don't know very much about who's a time traveler. I forgot his name. It'll come to me later. But so they kind of redo the story with inserting those three guys into the Arthurian legend. And I should have really loved this. And it was a fun enough read, but it felt kind of flat to me. And the art was okay. You can look, just looking at the colors here, I'm less excited by them than the colors in Old Guard. But I think most of all, it's whenever I read a Fred Van Lente story, the writer Fred Van Lente, it's always okay, but it doesn't have that zing. It doesn't dance, it doesn't sing for me, which is too bad. Almost all the Valiant comics I read, which aren't nearly all of them, but whenever I pick up a Valiant comic, it usually seems really great to me. And this one was just okay. I would say if you're curious about it, wait for it to be in a dollar bin or a digital comic sale or something like that. But it is cool that they're doing this one shot like that with their characters. Valiant's doing a lot of different creative things. I picked up Britannia this week, but I haven't got to read it yet. Black Hammer, I think this was from last week, popped back up for me as an... the last two issues I liked, but they didn't feel quite as great as the earlier issues of Black Hammer, but I really loved this and its exploration of both the mystery of what's going on in the town. It had some nice little reveals there, and the backstory of this Shazam-like girl. Now I'm forgetting what her name is. The Golden family. Is she called Gail Golden? Something like that. So it's funny that she has these grown-up characters as her sort of sidekicks, because she always turns into a child. But there's some interesting reveals about what her life was like beforehand. And also an interesting twist about... I'm forgetting there's a robot character and there's a Adam Strange-like character, and an interesting twist on those. Anyway, very good. So Black Hammer is back on top with me. Really liking it more than ever. Detective Comics, I did a video a little while ago where I had shotgun a whole bunch of Detective Comics in a row, and it was really readable and fun. There was in that set of issues one issue that kind of was less exciting than the rest, or less compelling to me personally than the rest. And now this most recent issue, 955, kind of struck the same note with me. It was okay. It kind of was just too much for me in a way with this. I was going to say Chelsea Kane, but what's Cassandra Cain battling endless enemies, and I didn't buy into this issue as well as some other issues. And maybe the art wasn't quite as strong. It's by an artist who I've often liked, Takara, and a colorist who I normally like too, Mialo. But I was less impressed just generally by the art. But I'm not going to drop it yet anyway. I think there may be just one more issue to this storyline. The character of Cassandra Cain, they've been building up really well, and I hope they're going to continue to do more with her. I hope this isn't the end of the focus on her. Okay, so there's all these Superman Reborn Aftermath comics floating around, and Supergirl, which I don't pick up on a regular basis, but my daughter keeps asking me to keep trying it in case it gets better. And we did like this issue better, me and her reading it together, because it wasn't obsessing about Cyborg Superman, and it had a fun appearance of this, what is she called, the Emerald Empress, which they say is from Justice League versus Suicide Squad, but I know her from the Legion of Superheroes. So she seems like a nice foil for Supergirl, and the art was very appealing, but much of the issue was just variations on her sitting around talking with Superman as she kind of absorbs the new status quo for Superman and his family, who are now, I guess, that they've gone through these changes in that Superman Reborn mini crossover, and now many more people in the DC universe know them and feel like they've known them for a long time. It's like they're integrated in. They got jobs at the Daily Planet and everything like that, and they're going to move back to Metropolis. All that is kind of problematic for me, and just dealt with in a really flat, uninteresting way here. Steve Orlando is a writer who definitely does not sing for me. He does not click with me, and it really fell flat here, where he's kind of being forced by editors to just, provide information. Super Sons was a bit better, and it was not technically a rebirth, a reborn book. In fact, the story continues from issues that came before Superman Reborn happened anyway. Good art. Somehow I'm not quite as into it at the moment either. So I'm having a flat week with the Superman comics. There was the regular Superman, which I think last issue we had a big reveal about the neighbor. And so this issue we just had a bunch of kind of business, very nicely drawn and colored, going on, but very little advancement of the plot. So I guess I can't blame that on Reborn, but I'm sort of waiting to see where this is going. So just kind of another weaker Superman family comic this week, surprising from that Superman title itself, which has been so strong. Okay, American Gods. So I not intentionally ordered these things where I'm going from stuff I really liked to stuff that was a little less likable. None of these comics are ones I didn't like. It's just levels of liking or not liking, and I just like to give my thoughts about them. But so American Gods, I enjoyed the first issue a lot. The second issue was much more of a struggle to read. It's very wordy. It's the pace is very slow, and there's not a lot of major stuff going on in this issue. I kind of see, with my vague memory of reading the novel 15 years ago or whenever it was, see things being set in motion that are going to happen next issue that will be more interesting. There was no little interlude about an American god or about a god drawn by P. Craig Russell, and I kind of missed that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it gets livelier and picks up more, or if it's my memory. Like I said before, my memory is that I wasn't that thrilled by this novel, and I thought I was going to like it better as a comic book actually after the first issue, but now I'm not sure. Curse Worlds was good. I don't have a lot new to say about it. Curse Worlds. I meant Curse Words. Well, the idea that anywhere people believe in something, like they believe, the human desire to believe in magic, even at magic shows where we all know it's a trick. It's kind of clever, but not really that new feeling. But I like this issue. I like this story. I think this is probably would be perfectly fine reading as a trade. My only problem is the art is so great. In a trade, you would have gutter loss for double page spreads like that, and action scenes like that. Now, if it comes out in a deluxe hardcover with great binding, then it would really be good. But it's probably, for most people, just good enough to read in a trade, I would say. And Royal City might be the same way. Maybe it'll be a better read in a trade. I want to keep getting it. It's a nice... I love the paper it's on. It just feels nice. This issue set up stuff. It had a few cliched scenes like the down and out, druggy, drunk person who owes money to some people who look like they're in a biker gang and say, you've got to pay me right away or pay me by the end of the week, even though you'll be getting your paycheck in 2 weeks and then would be able to pay us. But, yeah, it's still, I don't know. It's still enjoyable. It's hard for me to put my finger on why. It was easier in issue 1 too, but I'm enjoying it. I'm just gonna let the story flow over me as it unfolds month by month. God Country, another good, kind of like Curse Words, another good fantasy story, with a different art style, but very good art style. I've talked about how much I love the coloring in this one too, and it's feeling to me like I'm not sure how it can go on very long. It feels like it could just be like 3 more issues, and then the guy is going to lose, fight the bad guys, win the battle, lose the sword, go back to having his Alzheimer's. Maybe I'm wrong. It was interesting that we went down into hell in this issue. I would have liked a little more about hell because I'm always interested in hell. A little worried about going there, but hopefully I won't. It's the Catholic boy in me who likes the literal hell. But anyway, so that's kind of my comic book thoughts on recent comics read. I thought I would, while I have you trapped here because you can't get away, I'll show you some of the comics on my list, on my pile of to be read next. I've got Supergirl Being Super, issue 3, but these are mini trades, and for once a higher priced comic seems like a bargain in these. Love seeing the art. I like the character of Supergirl being done as a Elseworlds kind of story, but we'll see if it grabs me more. I still, when I read it, feel like it's for a different audience than me teenagers are like. Then I found this thing at one of the stores I went to this weekend. It's issue 2, but I thought I could try plunging in Cosmic Scoundrels. Just because, the old-fashioned way, I just flipped through the comic and I said, that art looks kind of fun, so I'll buy this comic. Maybe a little Jack Kirby-ish. I got the next Britannia miniseries by Peter Milligan and one of my favorite artists, Juan Jose Ripe. Although the last miniseries really was not good for Juan's art because of the coloring that just sort of covered it up. Here's a great, on the back cover, a black and white drawing. There's a different colorist this time, and it doesn't look, there's more pages that aren't so dark, and even on the dark pages you can see a lot more, maybe because they're not trying to emulate a foggy day. But there's the color version of that same drawing, and it's making me wish they published this in black and white. But anyway, I'm looking forward to reading it. I'm always curious about what Milligan has up his sleeve. There's always something a little off-kilter about his stuff, even when he's doing his more commercial work. I got to catch up on Renato Jones and the 1%. I think these will be the last 2 issues. Last 2 issues of the first arc. I don't know if it's continuing after that. I don't know whether the sales have been good enough. I have a lot to criticize about this comic, but a lot to love about it too. Then I have 3 issues of Doom Patrol to read. These are in the wrong order. Let's see. I've got issues 4, 5, and the newest one, I hope that's issue 6. Yep, issue 6 to read. So I'm really looking forward to that. I may have to refresh my memory. There was the comic book about this girl inside the street that seemed to have become more of a city, I think. Danny the Street, was that it? I've been putting off reading this for a long time. Moonshine number 6, but I might as well read that. Also, I found and grabbed Green Lantern meets Space Ghost. Just can't resist anything with Space Ghost in it, basically. Oh, and maybe this will be what I actually read next before I go to bed tonight. Commandy Challenge. This time written by James Tinian. I don't know if he has a great feel for Commandy, but an artist, Daanda, who I don't know, but a flip through here. The art and color looks fabulous, so that is at the very least to look forward to. Of the first 3 issues, I really enjoyed a lot. Issues 1 and 2, and issues 1 and 3, were really great. Issue 2 was okay, so we'll see if we get another great issue or okay issue, but it's a fun experiment. And then I've got another Superman comic to read. This is still tagged as Superman Reborn Aftermath, which is kind of a bad sign. I should do I don't think I can find time, but if I find time, I should do just a Superman comic book thoughts, because there's been a lot of Superman that I've been reading that I haven't been talking about, thinking that I will eventually talk about it. And then I have this giant pile. I have not read Deathstroke since issue number 7. It's just kept piling up on me, as many of these bi-monthly comics, or semi-monthly, what do you call a twice-monthly comic? So I got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 to read. Is that it? And 16. Oh my God. So what is that? I've got like 8 issues to read. So too much to read. But I really like the first 7 issues of Deathstroke, so I hope that continues. Okay. Tomorrow I am going to start and maybe finish, or maybe not finish. But tomorrow is my 5th anniversary on YouTube. So so far I've got 45 questions that people have asked me for my Q&A. I will at least start the Q&A tomorrow to celebrate my anniversary. I may spread it out over the weekend, or I may just bang it all out at once in maybe multiple videos. I had thought about doing it as a live video, but I think then I'll end up with this giant video, and it might be better to break it up into parts. I will still accept until tomorrow afternoon, West Coast time, more questions. So if anyone wants to leave me a question down in the comments for me to answer in my Q&A for my 5th anniversary on YouTube, feel free. Talk to you all later. Bye-bye.